Exposing the truth behind skyrocketing rents. You won't believe it. I'm diving deep into the crazy world of rising rents. From hidden fees to market trends, what's really driving them through the roof? Stay tuned to find out. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment for more Money Smart Basics videos. Stay until the end to receive a bonus tip. If you have any suggestions for financial literacy topics for our next video, please leave a comment. Welcome to our deep dive into why rents are skyrocketing across the country. Buckle up, folks, because we're about to wade into the dystopian swamp that is the current housing market. And spoiler alert, it's stickier than a $2 bill in a dive bar. From economic pressures to policy failures, we'll break down the key factors driving this crisis. We'll expose the villains, from greedy landlords, and yes, they exist, to the systemic issues making it nearly impossible to find an affordable place to live. Get ready to be outraged, because we're not just going to point out the problems. We'll also explore potential solutions because, frankly, living in a van down by the river shouldn't be the most affordable housing option. Let's start with the basics, shall we? Supply and demand. It's the economic principle that dictates the price of everything from your morning coffee to, you guessed it, your monthly rent. And right now, the balance is about as stable as a newborn giraffe on roller skates. Think about it, more and more people are moving to urban areas for work, education, or just the thrill of being closer to a decent bagel shop. But here's the catch. We're not building new housing units at the same rate. In fact, we're woefully, tragically, almost comically behind. This mismatch between a growing renter population and a stagnant supply of available housing creates the perfect storm for landlords to crank up the rent. It's like finding yourself at a desert festival with only one water bottle left. You're going to pay a premium for that sweet, sweet hydration. And if you think finding any old apartment is tough, try finding an affordable one. The shortage is even more acute for low-income renters, with a shocking lack of government-subsidized housing options, and landlords often favoring tenants with higher credit scores and deeper pockets. It's a classic case of too many renters chasing too few apartments, and the result? You guessed it. Sky-high rents that would make even a hedge fund manager wince. Remember when you were a kid and your allowance never seemed to buy as much candy as it used to? Well, welcome to adulthood, where everything is ridiculously expensive, and the only thing inflating faster than your grocery bill is the cost of renting. We're talking runaway inflation, folks, the kind that makes you want to trade your morning latte for a home-brewed pot of despair. And guess what? It's hitting the housing market harder than a runaway bouncy castle in a hurricane. Interest rates are through the roof, making it way more expensive for landlords to finance their properties. And you know what they say, if the bank's gotta pay more, you're gonna pay more. It's the circle of life. But instead of majestic lions and graceful gazelles, it's just you, your landlord, and a steadily increasing rent check. But wait, there's more. Property taxes are also on the rise because apparently local governments need more money to fix potholes that could swallow a small car. And let's not forget about insurance costs, which are climbing faster than a cat trying to escape a bath. All these rising costs get passed down to you, the renter, like an unwanted family heirloom you can't even pawn off on eBay. It's enough to make you want to move into a yurt and live off the grid, but then you remember you'd still need to pay for Wi-Fi, and suddenly, even that doesn't seem worth it. Chapter 3, Pandemic Effects. Because apparently, global pandemics have a rental budget. Ah, the pandemic. Remember those halcyon days of 2020 when we thought baking sourdough bread and hoarding toilet paper were the biggest challenges we'd face? Little did we know the chaos was just beginning, and it had a particular fondness for the housing market. Eviction moratoriums, while well-intentioned, threw a wrench into the rental ecosystem. Landlords, facing their own financial pressures, were stuck with non-paying tenants, creating a ripple effect that's still being felt today. It's like a game of Jenga, where pulling out one block can bring the whole tower crashing down. Then came the Great Migration. Remote work became the new normal, for some at least. And suddenly, people were fleeing expensive cities like rats from a sinking ship, only to discover that smaller towns and suburbs weren't exactly prepared for the influx. This increased demand, coupled with limited housing stock, sent rents soaring in places that were once considered affordable havens. It's like finding out your favorite indie band is now headlining Coachella, You're happy for them, but also, what happened to the good old days? And let's not forget about the rise of remote work itself. With more people working from home, the demand for larger apartments with dedicated office space skyrocketed. Suddenly, that cramped studio apartment that was barely livable before became about as appealing as a week-old tuna sandwich. Chapter 4. Corporate Landlords. Because everything's funnier when it's run by a faceless corporation. Remember playing Monopoly as a kid? Remember the unbridled joy of bankrupting your friends and family with exorbitant rent demands? Well, corporate landlords are basically living out their childhood Monopoly fantasies in the real world. And spoiler alert, you're the thimble. Institutional investors, armed with more money than a Scrooge McDuck swimming pool, have been gobbling up residential properties like they're going out of style. They're treating housing like the commodity it is, not the essential human need that it should be. These faceless corporations are all about maximizing profits, which means squeezing every last penny out of their tenants. They're like that friend who always forgets their wallet when you go out to eat, but instead of just stiffing you on the appetizer, they're coming for your entire paycheck. And speaking of squeezing every last penny, let's talk about short-term rentals. Platforms like Airbnb, while great for finding a quirky place to crash on vacation, have contributed to the housing shortage by taking long-term rentals off the market. It's simple supply and demand, really, but with a side of corporate greed. More units being used for short-term rentals means fewer units available for people who, actually need a place to live. It's like using your entire bread supply to make avocado toast. Sure, it's delicious, but eventually, you're going to be left with nothing but crumbs. Chapter 5. Government Inaction. Because who needs affordable housing when we have tax breaks for billionaires? Now you might be thinking, surely the government is doing something to address this crisis, right? Well, you'd be right, in the same way that ordering a single fry counts as doing something about your hunger. It's a start, but it's not exactly a satisfying solution. Rent control policies designed to protect tenants from exorbitant rent hikes are often riddled with loopholes and exemptions, making them about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. They're like trying to hold back a tsunami with a pool noodle, well-intentioned perhaps, but ultimately futile. And then there's the issue of government subsidies, or rather, the lack thereof. Funding for affordable housing programs has been slashed over the years, leaving low-income renters high and dry, like a forgotten houseplant in the middle of a heat wave. Housing vouchers, which provide much-needed assistance to low-income families, are often in short supply, with waiting lists longer than the line for a cronut on a Sunday morning. It's like winning the lottery, except instead of a giant check and a champagne toast, you get a slightly less terrible chance of finding a decent place to live. The government has a responsibility to ensure everyone has access to safe and affordable housing, and right now they're failing miserably. It's like watching a clown juggle chainsaws. It's supposed to be entertaining, but you're mostly just terrified of what might happen. Outro. So, what now? There you have it, the grim reality of the current rental market. These factors, all tangled together like a ball of yarn after a particularly aggressive cat attack, create a vicious cycle, making it harder and harder for renters to find affordable housing. But don't despair just yet. While the situation is dire, it's not hopeless. There are solutions out there, from increasing the supply of affordable housing to strengthening rent control policies and providing more government assistance. Stay tuned for more insights and solutions to this pressing issue. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Because if we're all going down in this flaming dumpster fire of a housing market, we might as well be informed. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. With that, you are ahead of 90% of most people in America. Here is the bonus tip that we promise. You need to hear this if you're a renter. Rent in major cities has gone up by 30% in just 1 year. Want to save? Negotiate with your landlord before renewing your lease. It could save you hundreds. The information in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not intended as financial advice. We are not financial advisors, and the content should not be construed as professional financial advice. Always seek the advice of a qualified financial advisor or other professional regarding your specific financial situation. The use of any information provided in this video is solely at your own risk. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment for more Money Smart Basics videos.